Hi, this is John Luther, Career Development Coordinator for the STAM School of Art and Design. And we are very fortunate today to have three incredible STAMS alums who are joining us to talk about portfolios, preparation, and presentation. We have Peter Baker, who is a creative director and consultant, and he has been with lots of really interesting companies like Duo and Cisco and Tesla and Herman Miller. We have Christine Golis, who is a senior managing director at QLTD right here in beautiful Ann Arbor. And then we also have Mark Sorinsky, who is the Senior Manager Brand and Marketing Imagery at Wondrium and is also a photographer beyond what he does with Wondrium. So we're very fortunate to have the three of them. If you have questions that come up during the panel, please feel free to drop them into the chat. We will have time at the end for Q&A, but you don't have to wait until the end if you have questions. So with that, we're going to get started, and we'll start with Christine. Hi, Christine. Um, Tell us a bit about who you are and what you look for in portfolios.
So I have been doing graphic design for quite a while. I do want to say that my portfolio, when I started out many, many years ago, was probably worse than anyone's here. So I'm just giving you that honest truth. Um, the biggest thing that I'm looking for when I talk with folks is I need to know the person um, behind the work. And that mainly is because we work as a team. I need to really feel that connection of the person. And that can be hard for us, as I like to call us, sensitive artist types. Sometimes we're a little bit quieter, maybe a little introverted, but the thing that I look for is to get to know you as a person. I like to hear out, what else you're interested in. And then depending on the position, if you're an intern and you're showing me a portfolio, I don't expect it to look like a wow agency portfolio. That's the most, I just don't. In fact, sometimes when I see too much flash and craziness, I get a little bit like almost off put. I'd rather see less thoughtful and just be honest about your skill sets. And then I was going to say for interns and also young hires, um, sometimes you don't have a skill set, so just be very honest with it, because then we can understand, if you're a good smart person, we can maybe move you into some areas of design work for a firm like us, because we do a range of work. So I'd rather hear what you can't do, what you're interested in, and then see what we can talk about.
So, Christine, when you're looking, because QLTD actually works in different media,
Mhm.
um, when you're looking at a portfolio, do you like to see clear categorization? Here's visual communication, here's branding, here's time-based media.
I don't necessarily need to see that, because if there isn't a lot, there might not be a lot in the categories. So, I like to look at, I don't know, I see 6 things and they are attractive. And then when I click in, I get more detail. And so I'm a little more open on, unless you're applying for specific, I'm applying as a web developer and all I want to see is X, or I'm showing my photography portfolio, then I'm expecting to see photography. But I don't have to see, because I know what the categorizations are. So if you're giving me a lead image, then I'm going to hear what you've done on that, and I'll find out is it a publication,
Very good, very good.
etc.
Um, so there's two things I think that you're hitting on. One is if somebody has submitted a portfolio and they're not physically there to talk about it. And the other is if you're in a sort of interview situation and sort of feeling the person out, what do they feel like? How would they fit with our group? If you are looking at a portfolio without the person there, do you experience it differently than if they are right across a table from you?
probably, um, usually when we see something just digital, I'm seeing a cover letter or some kind of communication. And it's surprising how that communication, whatever it is, if it's an initial email, if it's a cover letter, if it's a resume, I pick up a lot of cues there. And everyone's heard this a billion times, is spelling. I just want to make sure that you've got your spelling. And then, I don't need a long book, but, sometimes there's a cover letter that just has a little bit of information that seems like they know who we are instead of just looking for work. Here's
Yeah.
my portfolio. So, which is very anonymous. And as everyone knows, absolutely everyone is just inundated with information. So I guess I do pick up quick cues on the person through those even little minor words and digital connections.
Thank you so much for contextualizing the idea that materials are connected. That if you're submitting for something, you're not just submitting a link to a portfolio, but there's messaging involved. There usually is a resume involved. So seeing how those things go together, I think, is really important for people to remember. So thank you so much for connecting that there. I'm going to jump over to Mark. And Mark, you are really interesting because you can speak to portfolio from two different perspectives. And I would love it if you would tell people a bit about who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I've been a professional fine art photographer and a professional photo editor for about the same amount of time, going on almost 25 years. I have a gallery career as well as a commercial publishing career. So I currently work in publishing and media for a company called Wondrium, where I manage the imagery across brand and marketing for the company. They were formerly The Great Courses, which is a educational publishing company that was sort of the first lifelong education company in the media space back in the early 90s. So I see portfolios for both commercial work as well as I have portfolios that I submit for fine artwork. I've sat on panels for other galleries to review fine artists' portfolios before, so I sort of see things from both perspectives. And there's some things that really tie those two together. There's some differences about how you might want to approach it. I don't know what the makeup of everybody on the meeting is. If there's some folks that are looking to do gallery work and dip their toe in the professional fine art market, or if everybody here is looking to see what they're going to be doing commercially, in the corporate world, etc. But
That
there's
was
some things
for sure.
yeah, figured it would probably be a mix. So yeah, that's pretty much what I do.
And are you in a position with Wondrium in which you are hiring creatives?
Yes, I am. Before I was with Wondrium, even though I've been with Wondrium 12 years, I was the photo editor for the book division at Rodale Press, who have, unfortunately, they no longer exist, which is very sad, but they were pretty much a groundbreaker in the health and general wellness space, and they also had a pretty robust trade book division that was more celebrity driven. So I would be looking at hiring photographers for them all of the time, as well as commercial artists. And in my current role, I hire both professional photographers on a per job basis, as well as routinely looking at stock photography portfolios, which is another way that photographers can go if they want to, as well as commercial illustrators as well.
Yeah, so in that position, you just listed three creative types of roles.
Yeah.
Do you see any sort of distinction in the way people will present their work on a website or in an interview situation, depending on role?
That's a good question. I think in an it's interesting. The times that we're in are complicated. There's not a lot of folks that are, at least that I'm aware of, that are sending out, books for folks to flip through or coming in person to look through books of work. But I still think it's valuable for artists to have one. I think there's going to be a time where folks are going to really want to see artists and people they're going to be hiring in person a bit more often. I don't know when that's going to be, but I think eventually that's going to happen. And so I think having that available so that somebody can sit with you and walk you through their work, I think is really, really helpful. And even if you put it together and have it put away for a year or two, that's fine. Just continue to look at it and sort of see if it still reflects what you want to do. In terms of showcasing on a website, it's all about visual impact and about somebody not being there, right? So you need to catch somebody's attention a lot faster. So I would recommend, best practices would be to have your absolute strongest work up front. Be sure that your homepage is strong and graphically looks good. And then be sure that your strongest work sort of is in the beginning. And that, in both cases, you're tightly editing your work. You want to make sure that you're tailoring your work to the best of what you do. Don't try to be everything to everybody, because those of us that have been in the business a long time can see right through that. We want somebody that really fills a need. And if the company that you're looking at right now doesn't have the need that you can fill, that doesn't mean they won't in the future. So hold off. It's better to present yourself at the right time in the right way than to present yourself in a way that's not flattering and then not get the call when something great comes up.
Yeah, you just brought up several like really amazing things. One of them in this day and age of digital, we're not used to thinking about having a book. But I think with part of what you do around fine art photography, which is physically displayed in an actual space, a physical space, I could see the value of having a book for that sort of category. With Wondrium, are you ever like in the physical space, or is most of what you're doing going to be posted online?
So pre-pandemic, there was some physical space. Now I don't know how much that's changed. I'll give you a prime example of something. I just hired a photographer very last minute to shoot a major project in New York for, I can't really say too much yet, but it's a very, very well-known designer. Then we're having a piece of content come out that he's going to be teaching. And I was sort of looking, I had to look online and find somebody that I really thought would be strong. So, we had to go with the online portfolio there. It's not like I was going to have him send me a book. But I think for somebody that's graduating, especially, or somebody that's just entering the market, networking is going to be really important when we all sort of virtually networking, but also networking in person if things ever open back up the way that we want. And some of that is going to seminars, going to portfolio reviews, going to, big, job conferences, things like that. And having a physical book for those purposes would be helpful. It doesn't mean that you can't bring somebody through your website on an iPad, but it's always nice if somebody shows up with something that looks finished and polished in physical media as well.
Cool. Thank you so much. I have one more thing to touch on with you, Mark, and that's more on the fine art photography side.
Sure.
I think making it, however we want to describe making it, as an independent artist is quite different in some ways than making it, more in the commercial world, the design world. What advice do you have for not just fine art photographers, but for artists around thinking of effective materials, thinking around portfolio and the way to present your work?
So some of the things that I would advise cross over into both, but for what I think is important specifically for gallery work, and if you want to actually show as a fine artist, deep exploration of themes is very important. Spend some time exploring the themes and the subject matter that you want to work in and the materials you work with. Galleries and curators want to know that you are spending the time and digging deep to explore, and that you're on a journey. And when you show that work, you want to be at the right point in your journey. They want to see that you have the patience and the consistency to stick with something rather than jumping all over the place. It's a lot harder to market an artist that is a little bit, all over the place. I would also advise that folks reach out to galleries that showcase work where yours might fit. This is going to sound super obvious, but don't apply, if you're a photographer, don't apply to a gallery that only shows glass and ceramics and think, oh, I'm going to be the one that's going to break that trend and they're going to want me because I do a lot of things that are similar to what. No, they're not. They're going to want glass artists and ceramicists, and you should look somewhere else. And then, one thing that I've sort of learned over the years is to pay attention to galleries that not only focus in your chosen medium or represent your chosen medium, even if it isn't their focus, but really look at the work that these galleries are showing and the artists they have and see where you might be able to fill a need. Figure out if they've already got somebody that's doing something very similar to what you do. It may not be the best fit. You could still, touch base with them and see, because it may be close but far enough away where you could actually have a great two-person show with that person. But if it looks really, really similar, take a look and think about what could you offer this gallery and the gallery director that they don't already have in their roster. And then when you write your cover letter, exploit that and use that to your advantage and indicate that you've looked at the work that they have and that you feel like your work might be interesting to them because it fills a need that the gallery doesn't currently have that.
That's great advice. Thank you. Excuse me. So, Peter, you've worked with different organizations. If I remember correctly, you actually helped found one of them. What advice do you have around what you see, how you look at portfolio, either as a submission or even in person as part of an interview?
Yeah, I've been on both sides of a lot of different sort of interactions around portfolios. I was a freelance designer and photographer for years before going full time at a company called Duo that I helped get off the ground as the first designer. As a freelancer, I was, a lot of what Mark and Christine were saying sort of resonated about the showing up in the right way to the right people, doing your research about who you're even presenting to. And if you have to, customize your portfolio a bit for that audience. If you have a wide range of work, only, show me the stuff as an employer or a hirer or a contractor that is relevant to what I'm going to use you for. It's great that you have a wide body of work. It's great that you're versatile. But as somebody hiring or commissioning, I'm usually looking for a specialty, right? I'm usually looking for something to fit into a project. And when I joined Duo, starting off as sort of the only designer, I grew a team there. We decided to do everything in-house: product design, creative design, marketing, filmmaking, animation, web development. I had by the end of my time there, after about 8 years, I had a team of 40 across all of those different practices. So we did everything that an agency would typically do, we did in-house. So got to see a lot of portfolios and across like the different practices. I think there's some, and again, like Mark said, I don't know what the makeup of this group is, but knowing Stamp's sort of multidisciplinary angle to things, product design, creative design, graphic design, and photography and filmmaking, they all come together in the commissions of corporations, right? They all come together in the commissions of people looking to produce imagery, produce brands, produce products. And there's a few things that overlap between them, but there's also some really big distinctions. Like what I looked for in product design portfolios was like deep research capacity, like really looking at the audience for the, whether it's a mobile app or web design or industrial design or whatever, showing and explaining the process behind it, the research that went into it, the collaboration, because you don't design a mobile app on your own and have it, created on your own. You're going to work with engineers, you're going to work with product managers, you're going to work with other people. So that collaborative ability, showing how the research manifests in the final output, super important for a product design portfolio. For a graphic design portfolio, or like a marketing design portfolio, range is actually really important. And I'm looking for capability, not just necessarily in look and feel and style, but like the range in the output, print stuff, web stuff, digital. Can you adapt the things that you're designing to a lot of different mediums? There's no such thing as a print designer anymore. There's no such thing as a web designer anymore. Everyone is designing everything now. That might be a billboard, it might be a bus wrap, it might be, a teacher. And so knowing how your designs are going to manifest on a lot of different mediums is super important. And the other thing in like a more sort of creative designer portfolio is just inspiration. Like, where are you pulling inspiration from? How do you take the sort of nut of an idea and turn it into something that we weren't really expecting or looking for? And how can you sort of speak to that thoughtfulness? Are you good at sort of inspiring the room and asking the right questions and things like that? And then the other one would just be like technique. Are you technically capable of a lot of different things? Do I see a range of ability, general, technical awareness, organization and things like that? Is the technique strong? And I mean, brass tacks, like on the design side, like typography, if I see something that's, using typography really well, that gives me a whole lot of confidence in the rest of the work that might ever be done. That's like, graphic design 101. You get the typography down, I have confidence that the rest will fall into place. But and then I've hired a lot of filmmakers and animators and photographers too, and I'm also a freelance editorial and fine art photographer. I've created a ton of portfolios and gotten a lot of side eyes from people that are wondering what the hell they're looking at, because I'm coming into the ceramics gallery with my photo portfolio. That when I'm hiring for those kind of areas, those are usually to work in a project that is already somewhat, I wouldn't say fully baked, maybe not even half baked, but we have an idea of what's going to happen with it. We have a creative concept, and I'm looking for a specialization, right? We already know if it's going to be animation or a live action commercial, so I'm not going to go hire a cinematographer for the animation project. So I want to look for specialization in the portfolio and know that you're going to slot into what we're doing really well. And then as far as the portfolio itself, whether it's a physical one, a web one, or whatever, or even a presentation you might give, I'm looking for some real sort of information architecture to it, right? If there's a lot of work, I want to see it well organized. If there's a narrative thread to it, especially like on the photography side, I want to be able to suss that out. Don't make me think about it. The portfolio is not a portfolio piece. The portfolio houses your portfolio pieces. Don't make me have to unfurl the complexity and cleverness of your portfolio. Get the work on display, make it big, make it easy to navigate, and I'm good. And then the work will show for itself. So I think that's most of it.
Yeah, that was amazing. One of the things that I talk about with students is the difference between your like master portfolio and your presentation portfolio. And I think of your web portfolio in some ways, depending on discipline, but as your more master portfolio, you can categorize it. There can be a lot of work that may or may not be directly relevant as long as people can navigate it easily. But then once you're in a situation to show your work, then you want to narrow it down to the presentation portfolio. This is what's truly relevant. And especially if you're there physically or virtually these days. to talk somebody through the narrative, um, that can be really helpful. Which brings me around to something that I also see sometimes, which is don't send me a link to your portfolio, send me a PDF, which I think has pros and cons. The pro is you really can turn that into a presentation portfolio, only the best work, only the most relevant work. Um, but then you have to worry about, what is the size of the file and, some other unfortunate stuff. What do you guys think? And also with Peter, what do you think about receiving a PDF attachment as opposed to a link?
Well, I mean, on your first point of sort of showing up with, a narrower slice, like, I mean, everyone we're talking to here is inherently sort of early career, right? And I'm not trying to say you should be specializing right now. No matter how much I want to see a specialization, no matter how much I want to, I'm hiring for a certain thing. It absolutely benefits you right now to be as broad as possible. So your portfolio should be pretty broad, but you should also know your audience well enough to walk in with just the kind of stuff that they're going to be looking for. So like, early on when I was shopping around my editorial photography portfolio, I went to New York, and I'm schlepping across all the, Time Warner buildings and the Condé Nast and stuff. And I'm going into like 15 different editorial gigs, meeting with different photo editors. I had 5 different books with me. One that had more portraiture, one that had more landscape, one that had weirder stuff that, I thought maybe Popular Mechanics might like or something. I couldn't walk into Popular Mechanics with my portraiture stuff for country living or whatever and feel like I was showing them stuff that they might need. So I did have, that was like the PDF
Right.
for me. So I think there is some value in having a subset or an example or a sheet of thumbnails or something. But the technical aspects of sending me a giant PDF are tricky. Like, more likely that's going to show up in my junk mail because I just got an unsolicited attachment, right? But
Right.
I would also say I do want to see the website. You might entice me with that one-page thing or a JPEG in the email, but I want to see the rest too. And longer term, to Mark's point, it might not be right for me right now, but hopefully you got me to follow you. Hopefully you got me to like pay enough attention that at some point I have a pretty terrible memory for everything but photographs. I have a photographic memory for photographs. If I see something in some work that got my interest, I will remember it later when I'm looking for something like that. And I want, we all need to think about the marketing of our work. Really importantly, the ongoing audience conversation and building the community around our stuff. It's not enough to just hope you showed up on their desk at the right time. You got to kind of build that muscle memory of reminding people, get them on a mailing list or something. If guarantee any photo editor or creative director that isn't looking for you right now is going to be looking for somebody like you at some point. So being fresh on their desk is always useful.
Yeah, and this is the beauty in some ways of the social media age. Follow me on Instagram, follow me on WhatsApp, follow me on Snapchat, follow me on LinkedIn.
I'll do that 1,000 times over. You might not get an email back from me, but I will follow a good stream of work on Twitter or Instagram all day
Yeah.
long.
Yeah, and I don't think we usually think of portfolio as what someone is compiling in, their Instagram account or in one of their other social media platforms, but it really is a form of portfolio. So
100%.
I love that you bring that up. Mark, I can see you excitedly agreeing with so much.
Yeah.
Feel free to jump in here.
Well, yeah, I agree with a lot of what Peter said. To pick up on the social media piece, I mean, it's really important, right? I personally feel like if it weren't for my career, I would probably just drop off of Facebook, and Instagram I'd probably poke around in it, but I wouldn't be on there all that often because it obviously has some drawbacks. But Instagram in particular, I'm very active in. I would say that's one of the places I show work the most. And it's the place that I learn about opportunities the most. It's the place that is a good opportunity to give a snapshot of a single piece of work or a couple of pieces of work, if you just want to have a couple of statement pieces to throw up there every so often. And I think that it can be really helpful to somebody either in the fine art world or the corporate world, trying to get gigs or to get hired. The other thing too is that companies now especially are starting to look at people's Instagram and other social media accounts. Even if you're not directing them there, they're going to look for you there. And figuring out if you're, how your work should look there, what you're posting, how it looks, that's another thing. I'm sure everybody here, their parents have told them, be careful what you post on social media because it can come back to bite you, that whole thing. I would say that's true, but also specifically when you're putting work up there, think of it, like John said, think of it as a place where people are going to find you either by accident or they're going to find you because they're looking and you've applied somewhere and they're poking around. So I think it's definitely important. And like Peter said, you're going to get followed by folks that may not be hiring you right now, but those kinds of things sort of stick in folks' heads. And then because of the way that the algorithms are set up, they'll show up again in their feed, and then they'll show up again in their feed later. And, the social media companies are doing some of that marketing work for you by allowing your work to show up in a variety of places organically.
Yeah, yeah. And Christine, without giving away either of our age, I've known about Q for like years, and I've seen QLTD change over time, and I've seen the dynamics of how Q presents its own portfolio to the world and engages in social media. What role do you play at this point in how Q is presenting itself to the world? Because Q is like its own sort of portfolio in and of itself. Oh, you're on mute. Yeah.
The dark secret is with a small firm, we're always behind in everything. So we are a little behind, I would say right now, with some of our plans and work on our site just to get through. We did a big move. We have a new space, there's a lot going on. But yes, so as a small firm, we're getting the work, we're doing the work, we're managing the employees, we're doing the HR, it's all that stuff. So sometimes, like I said, we get a little behind. I did want to comment a little bit about Instagram, because again, for us, we have channels, we're trying to, we don't have a full-time social person, it's all of us, it's our small team doing it all. So it's the real reality. Like there's only so many hours in the day. But I do have a Instagram comment. I think the lucky thing for visual artists is you can use Instagram for your artwork. Whereas I have a daughter who's not an artist. She had to get off Instagram because she was finding it to be not good for her mental and emotional health. It's just too much. So thinking about Instagram as a portfolio device versus a personal, all the, what are they called? Your beauty shots.
Yeah.
So I'm just commenting on that because people have been doing studies on this now, especially for younger women and Instagram. That said, I guess my comment is, I think the reality we deal with as a small firm is it is hard to get it all done. So I would say for young and up and coming, I have a real side of me that looks for the reality of life, right? You're either young and your portfolio isn't huge, but I want to know that you're curious, you're interested, you're kind, you're, thoughtful. then you might have been working like crazy, and then you're going to have like a family, and then again something's going to happen, and you're not going to have every second of the day to do your work, so I guess at this point in my life, because I've had all the different phases of my life from young to old, we're balancing all this stuff. I guess I feel very realistic about life. Like, when you have a sick parent and you're still trying to work and you got to get a job and you're interviewing, I mean, it's just what it is. So I guess I'm just trying to share that because we're in the business of image, it's a lot out there. And I don't want anyone to feel like it all happens so magically, because it's work. It's all work and it's all effort. And so, I think all of us try to concentrate on what you're doing at the time. And like I said, be honest, make sure you're trying to show up 100% for what you're doing at that moment. And then know, there's probably 1,000 other things you could be doing, but, trying to deal with the one thing at a time, so that's why I'm leaning toward, in general, less, just because
I think
that's what we're kind of seeing. Well, that's what we're seeing.
It's a good point. As much as, especially anyone in the photography world, is going to still rely on Instagram to some extent. It's the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room when it comes to photography. No matter how much I loathe it and its parent company and the techniques that they use to hook us on things, like I'm keeping my distance as much as possible. But that's kind of marketing in general, right? There's a lot of tacky stuff you can do with marketing that we all try to get up to the edge of and stay just shy of to feel good about ourselves. If there is one thing though that I can say has stood the test of time that is absolutely worth building into your ongoing sort of marketing, and again, lowercase m marketing process, is email newsletters. Get people's email addresses, have them sign up for whatever it is that you do, and think about weekly, monthly, quarterly updates on what you're doing, your career, the work you're putting out. Anyone that signed up for that is the best audience you can get, right? They are asking for updates on what you're doing. And that's honestly, it's the most valuable, it's the most old-fashioned, it's the easiest and cheapest and freest and most ownable tactic you can have. Instagram has gotten shitty because they keep changing it on us. Now they're competing with TikTok. So all they want is for everyone to make little videos. Well, I don't want to make little videos. I want to keep putting photos up. But that's not what Instagram's for anymore. So those platforms keep shifting. You cannot rely on the platforms to continue to provide what they did, the year prior. But your own platforms, your own website, your own email list, that's yours forever. You control that. And that audience that has opted in to that communication will get it every time and actually read it and ingest it. That's, if there's one thing to take away from this, start an email mailing list.
So I'm going to observe something here. The first one is, please drop your questions into the chat. Adriana, thank you for already getting us started on that. And thank you both, Mark and Peter, for responding. But I want to thank you for really demonstrating that any discussion of portfolio leads to a discussion of networking, leads to a discussion of other forms of communication. And then if we're talking about communications, it's going to lead to resume and portfolio and networking. I mean, all of these things are so interwoven in how we're presenting ourselves to the world. We can separate them out by topic, but the reality is they are so connected. So I love the fact that the conversation went in this direction. You guys are great. Are any of you or all of you familiar with Behance and Creatively?
Yep.
So I love showing Behance to students because it allows them to see what a lot of creatives from around the world are doing. So there's the inspiration piece, but you can also connect to their portfolios and see how other people are approaching the way they're presenting themselves. Creatively is very new, only about a year old, so less well known as Behance. But I wonder what you think about these sites as inspiration, as emulation. Any thoughts that you have about Creatively and Behance?
I think that, sorry, I'm the one still unmuted, so I guess I'll go first. Leilani just asked, how do you spell
Yeah,
it?
I'm typing as we go.
Behance is like enhanced, but with B, Behance. I think those sites are great. I mean, I pour over, especially Dribble. I think for product design, again, it sort of goes back to the social channels too. Like, know what channels are effective for what type of work you're putting out there or looking for. I've hired a lot of product designers, both contract and full time, off of Dribble. And I never even saw a bigger portfolio because that's not something ingrained in their sort of user interface design, human computer interaction world. And then, Behance is an amazing like visual art platform. Instagram's still a great photo one. So like knowing those channels, as much as I hate making this about marketing, it really, at the end of the day, is entirely about getting yourself in front of the right people at the right time. And your portfolio, like, if there's one thing I wish I had been told early on, was like, don't expect to be discovered. You have got to shop yourself around. Like, no matter how great your artwork is, if nobody sees it, they're never going to know. So you've got to get in front of people in the right places. And given how many of those platforms there are, the amount of time I'm able to spend on any one of them is minimal these days. So it's really got to show up.
Yeah. And Christine or Mark, thoughts about sites like Creatively, Behance, Dribble, Cargo. Thank you, Christine. Um, AIGA is an amazing organization for anybody who's interested in visual communication design. AIGA is the largest professional association for graphic art in the United States. The American, what is it, Institute of Graphic Artists. Um, and so definitely, as a student, if you get involved with AIGA, it's very beneficial. So thank you guys for dropping that into the chat. But again, sticking more with Behance and Creatively, which are a little hotter at the moment, although Dribble I do tend to love as well. Any thoughts about how they work, about investing your time in posting your work to those types of sites?
Christine, if you want to go, you can. No? Okay. I'm kind of with her. I don't, for me, I don't spend a ton of time on those sites. I know of them. I think it's probably smart to have your work there. I think the more places that you can showcase your work, the better, especially if they don't require different aspect ratios or minimal changes between platforms in terms of preparing your work. I think it's better to have have some options in multiple places. I want to go back to one thing you were saying earlier, though, John, which is about the whole idea of communication, and then something about marketing your work as well that Peter brought up. I think it's really important, whether you're going to be seeing somebody in person or whether you're just going to be communicating digitally, it's really important to sort of have like an elevator pitch in your head about your work. It can be, if you're a fine artist, it can be a short form, one sentence thing related to your artist statement that really sort of speaks to your work. And if you're a commercial artist, you can approach it sort of in what you're looking for and just a general thought on the type of work that you do and what you're looking to do. And then rehearse it, rehearse it by yourself, rehearse it in the mirror, rehearse it with people. Because you don't want to come off sounding too pre-planned, but you want to come off sounding like you know your work. And I think it's really important that no matter what you're trying to pursue, that you know your work and that you can convey the fact that you know it and articulate it.
Very good.
I did have a comment what I was thinking about when I did AIGA, but this would be any professional organization. Something that we're seeing through the years I like to say, because I'm in the design field, everyone wants to be a designer, right? So everyone, our clients want to do that. We can do that. Just give us the template. We'll go on Canva. There's this, we want to play in this stuff too. And so I've been thinking a lot about the professionalism of our fields. And I think nobody wants to say, oh, I'm joining some old staid professional organization. I don't know. It's like there's something about it, though, that I think is super important for all of us to know that we have a community of actual professionals that think about this stuff instead of, oh, it's the new flavor and I got my iPhone and I'm going to do this, or I went on Canva and I picked a few templates. So I found myself truly appreciating professional organizations more because of actually trying to elevate the work you're doing. And it's not just I'm playing around with some colors, there's really that was actually something that I maybe even during the pandemic thought about more, is just really appreciating our professional organizations and what they offer and the history of the craft and the history of the work that you do. And
Yeah. And Peter, were you a part of IDSA?
Yeah, yep, and AIGA.
Yeah, and for those of you not familiar with IDSA, it's the Industrial Design Society of America. Again, the largest professional association associated with product and industrial design. With the advent of UI UX design, IDSA, AIGA, these various sort of design related organizations and careers are aligning in ways that I don't think they ever have before. I think of UI UX as the nexus of design, and I think with Duo, Peter, feel free to talk about your experience with Duo and how you actually lived that experience.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things, so I'm no longer with Duo. I left in May after almost 9 years, and after we got bought by Cisco, and I'm advising a bunch of other startups now. And one of the things I tell them, hire a designer early. Get a designer in the room early on. It's going to help not just elevate, the look and feel and stuff, but they're going to ask questions that nobody else in the company is kind of thinking to ask. They're going to poke at how the things work way more than the engineers who are trying to make it work, or the product managers who are trying to bring in context from potential customers and stuff, or the CEOs who are off on a different planet 20 years down the line. The designers in the room early on are going to make things look better, sound better, and work better. And so, that was a real sweet spot for us at Duo, because it was a cybersecurity company. It was really hard for me at first to hire any designers with cybersecurity experience, because there are no designers in the industry. And so that actually became a huge differentiator for us when we applied thoughtful user-centric design to a space that just had none of it. Not only was it good for the customers and made us a much easier to use product, but it also set us way apart from all of the other, frankly, shitty, undesigned design that came before. So yeah, I think it's more of a differentiator than ever, but the totality of it wasn't just like the mobile design, it was the entire crafting of the whole brand. So product design was super important, but so was the rest of it, kind of telling the story of why we were doing it that way, which was also a big differentiator in the industry. Being user-centric was not normal for cybersecurity. It was usually something that was inflicted upon users, a bunch of antivirus stuff or authentication stuff. And so being able to craft stories, make videos, make films and commercials and animations, and explain and product market this in a way that was different, that more resonated from that user centricity, was also huge too. And that all came out of the designers and writers and the creative side of the house. So getting that early on was a huge leg up for us.
Great.
I want to pick up on something that Christine said too, and I agree with all of what what Peter mentioned, that's absolutely accurate. I mean, I've been in many meetings where the creatives really were the ones that drove the end results of a product, because there was nobody else in the room that thought of the things that needed to be thought of. What Christine mentioned about the organizations and the professional groups that are out there, even if you don't join them, a lot of them offer services like free portfolio reviews, for example. So I sat on panels for the Picture Archive Council of America on their international panel for discussing about what was going on in the image world. And I also did portfolio reviews for the American Society of Media Professionals. And the folks that walked away from those things, a lot of them were not members of the organizations themselves, but they were able to either pay a fee to get in the door, or they knew somebody, or they somehow managed to find themselves there. And the feedback that we got was that it was really valuable for them. So, look for those opportunities, because it's great to have other professionals look at your work and sort of get an outsider perspective from somebody that's a member of a professional organization. It's really valuable, and a lot of times it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah, and AIGA, the national chapter and the Detroit chapter both sponsor portfolio review sessions for students. And anybody who's on this Zoom call knows I will promote that to you and provide info about that to you. We're winding down on time, so I want to encourage anybody who still has a question to please drop that into the chat. And in the meantime, I'd like to just kind of go around any last words of advice around portfolio, and starting with Christine, any last words?
I just was thinking again, Peter, you mentioned about designers designing everything and that we're not just one kind of designer. So I thought that was really something for any creatives to think about, and also then watch where your skill set is. So if you're really going to be a graphic designer, typography is such a core. But I'm, running out here for a video shoot, working with a video crew from Lansing, and I have really good ideas on putting the storyboard together, and there's going to be some type in it, but it's mostly visuals and a story and music. And I, have the eye for that and the ear for that. So, but I like that comment, Peter, what we're designing and bringing a designer into the room. That's super. Oh man, that is super important, because often what happens is the MBAs and the other, I don't know, they somehow want to own the space. And so what I always try to make sure our creatives come in is, it's not that we're smarter than them. We know what we're talking about. We want to be part of that team. So I'm glad you're mentioning that also. Getting the designers in the room, we bring a lot.
Great. And before we move on for some other closing words, Catherine, and I would love to actually hear this from all three of our panelists. How do you recommend designing, arranging the front main display page or landing page of a portfolio website?
Christine, you had to drop at 2:30, so why don't you go first?
If I see 6 things on there and they're both, a little bit, especially if it's designed, so it's a logo, it's a cover, that works for me. A little name, logo, and then 6 things, and then I can click in.
Great. And I know you got to run. All right, Peter.
The rest of it should be pretty standard, right? Clear navigation, name in the upper left, contact info up top. Give me an email address, give me something to follow you on, give me some way to contact. But then, as far as the work, like as categorically as possible. Like if you're a logo designer, then I'm going to see half a dozen logos. Like edit type, right? But if you're more multidisciplinary, if you do product design, you do brand design, you do photography, you do film, I kind of want to see those 4 things. I need to get as quick a slice of your life as possible. And so if you're a deep specialist, great. Then show me the 4 or 5 best pieces you've got from that specialty. If you've got 4 or 5 categories, then I need to see that quickly too.
Yeah, yeah. And Mark, what do you look for in an effective landing page?
I mean, I think part of it, like Peter alluded to, it really depends on who you are and what you do. I think, you know, if you're a visual artist, a fine artist, you want a statement image up front, and then, you know, portfolio sort of on the next page, perhaps, but you want something good size and impactful that you then don't always leave up there forever. You want to be sure you rotate it so that folks that continually come back to your site see something new. If you're somebody like Peter mentioned, that's a graphic designer that specializes in logo design or other types of graphics, you may want to have a few things up there, but you definitely want to make sure that you're not crowding the page.
Mm.
There's no bigger turnoff if you're looking for a designer or a creative professional than to look at one that doesn't know how to design their own site or present their own work online. Because, you know, if they can't do their own work justice, how are they going to do you justice and help your company or help you or whatever? So I would say, you know, be thoughtful, and, you know, put your best foot forward. Don't overcrowd. Simpler is usually better, but if you need to get across a range, be thoughtful about how you do it.
Yeah. Hopefully people can hang out for a couple more minutes because Sung Jae has, I think, a really great question around how when people become art directors, creative directors, they actually need to kind of dabble or at least have knowledge in a lot of different things. And so he's asking about how a path, you know, should you narrow, should you stay broader? So it's a really great question, Peter. If you want to pick up on that, that would be great. Ah, you're muted. Sorry.
Thanks. I don't know that there is a clear path to it because it is sort of the generalist in chief, right? Like it's our direction is certainly clearly around the visual style, the creation of a design system or a visual identity or something like that. But creative director really starts to get into a lot of different facets of the business building. The depending on if you're a agency creative director or an in-house one, it's going to be wildly sort of different jobs too. But I think the way I always kind of described being a creative director was seeing a lot of dots that are nowhere near connected and finding a way to connect them creatively, visually, story-wise, and all of that. So I would say probably the biggest thing separating an art director from creative director is telling stories. Being able to pull together the multiple facets of a brand or a business or a product or an audience and figuring out a thread that's going to resonate with them, and then turning, you know, the brief, the idea into something that's actually going to make sense for that. So it's actually, as much as creative is in the title, it's way more about the business and making all the great ideas that are coming out of the room full of brainstorming and honing them into something that makes sense for the business. So some of the best creative directors I've known, you know, came from the business side. I have a great friend who was at Leo Burnett for years. He was a great creative director for 20 years. He got an MBA first and then decided he wanted to be a writer. He became a creative director, and every one of his projects, he was doing stuff for like Hallmark and Coke and stuff like that. It all came, briefs always came with how this is going to make sense for the business and the audience. And, you know, just about everything he ever pitched, they took. So it's weird. I know that's not a, you know, great answer to it, but I think it is about curiosity of all angles of how this stuff shows up in the world and how it does or doesn't make sense for the business that's going to hire you for it.
Thank you. And if we can stick around just a little bit longer, Ashley has a great question. Um, and it's the, you know, presentation storytelling, oh my God, this person has 2 seconds to look at my stuff question. So Mark, I don't know if you want to take this one on, but you know,
Sure.
any thoughts that you have on that?
Sure. Yeah, that's always a balancing act, isn't it? So I think part of it is dependent on the kind of work that you make. But overall, I do not need a backstory for every single piece in your portfolio. I think that, it's probably not worth spending the time doing that, because if you're a fine artist, you can get that across in your artist statement in a lot of cases. If you are a commercial artist, then, generally, if you're showing something related, we'll pick up logo design again, because we've used that a lot. You can show a quick progression of, maybe where the rough started out and where you landed. And that will tell the story. If you're presenting something in person, then there may be an opportunity to mention a couple of things about a few key pieces. And, depending on what you're applying for, if storytelling is really important, you can sort of touch on some of those things in your cover letter, I would think, but most of the background of every piece is probably not the best route. People do have limited time, and it's better to pick and choose your spots.
Yeah. Yeah.
I want to contrast that just a bit, especially on the product design side. I totally agree on sort of the visual art portfolio side, photography and stuff like that. But seeing case studies for interactive work, or deeper sort of brand building work where you're doing stuff across a lot of different mediums, I think is super valuable. But to Mark's point, like, you're going to catch my eye with the imagery, but you're going to make me a fan when I read the background, when I read the thought process, when I read that. So some of the better portfolios I've seen lately have actually treated their portfolio pieces as articles, where they're writing out the thought process behind some of it and interspersing it with example imagery and stuff from it. Again, totally different for a more visual art portfolio. But for some of the commercial art side of things, that thought process is going to help me really understand if you're going to work out or not with us.
Yeah, and I love that you both basically said the same thing, which is it depends. What is the work that you're presenting is going to dictate a lot of how it can effectively be presented. In product and industrial design, definitely you want at least one whole example of process from iteration to finish. And then in UI UX, obviously you're contextualizing a great deal of the research through text. So I love that both of you said the same thing without saying the same thing. um,
It's sort of like with conceptual art, right?
oh
Like,
yeah,
the piece itself is not going to communicate everything. You kind of
yeah.
got to read the placard.
Um,
Some work
so
needs that too.
we're going to wrap things up. You have been wonderful. Christine obviously had to get to her photo shoot. Um, I know in the past it's been very easy for me to connect students with Christine, very easy for me to connect students with Peter. Mark, I'm hoping moving forward, this is our first time together, but not hopefully our last, that connecting you with students would also be appropriate. Very good, very good. And Peter, if you ever reach the point where I'm overwhelming you, just tell me to stop.
Never. I love talking about this stuff.
All right. Again, thank you both so much. Everybody who's still on the call, thank you for lasting past 2:30. I do try and stay on time, but it was just too much fun and interesting to stop on time. Um, so again, everybody enjoy your weekend. Anybody who wants to be in touch with the panelists today, there's Peter's Twitter. Feel free to get in touch with Peter directly that way. Or if you want to reach out through me, I'm always happy to help people make connections. It's all about the network. And enjoy the rest of today and the weekend.
Thanks, everybody.